Hi, it's Paul Ryan. That bumper music can only mean one thing. We're going to talk about music. We're going to check in on Freddie Spaghetti and what he's up to, and we'll play a song. And today, in the music segment, if banjos came into the limelight after the Bristol sessions, what about that instrument heard in virtually every single folk, bluegrass, Celtic, and other acoustic music? The acoustic guitar. Today, what I'd like to do is zero in on three builders who have become leaders and synonymous with the acoustic guitar of today. Specifically, I'm talking about C.F. Martin, Gibson, and Taylor guitars. I have a guitar from each of these builders, each with a specific model, and each to serve a specific purpose. And all three of them are major influencers on today's acoustic music landscape. Of course, there are many other great guitar makers, but I'll zero in on these three. Gibson. Last week I covered Gibson Mastertone banjos. Well, they also made other stringed instruments, mandolins, guitars, and others. In 1894, Orville Gibson built an archtop violin, and later on he'd apply that making of mandolins to guitars. In 1921, Gibson employed Ted McHugh, a woodworker by trade, invented the truss rod and then the adjustable bridge. In 1922, the company designed a guitar that would play steel strings. And by the late 20s and early 30s, players were looking for more volume. And so the company began to make its models larger. By 1938, the company introduced a super large guitar, the J200, a jumbo acoustic, and its J45. Between 1942 and 46, Gibson focused on creating the best flat-top guitars in the United States. By the mid-80s, Gibson had so many instruments and so many models, it was so busy, it ran into financial trouble, and it was purchased by Henry Juskowitz and David Berriman. The Gibson brand, though, of acoustic guitars today are based on a history of innovation and market-leading flat-top models. And if healthy competition brings out the best in your competitors, Gibson, over the decades, has forced Taylor and Martin and other guitar makers to up their game. Taylor guitars. Taylor guitars has its roots going back to the 70s when a man named Sam Ratting opened a guitar shop in Lemon Grove, California. Ratting's operation was a co-op where he'd give them a bench and space, and the luthier or wannabe luthier would come in and work on their guitars or instruments. Bob Taylor was another builder that came into Ratting's shop right out of high school in 1972, and he began to build guitars. By 1974, Ratting ran into some financial trouble and told his employees that if they could come up with $2,400, they could have the shop. Taylor and others pooled their resources to come up with the cash, and the shop became a formal guitar-making business. Because before that, they made any kind of instruments. It was basically a luthier co-op shop. At the time, Martin guitars were the industry acoustic guitar standard, and Taylor's early designs were basically just to copy Martin and offer an affordable alternative. The first Taylor guitars did offer some benefits aside from the price point of a Martin, though. The bolt on the neck, for example, these were much easier to repair than the glued-on ones. Taylor guitars became a force, and when suddenly rock star Prince commissioned Taylor to build him a 12-string guitar in purple, Prince was at the top of the charts at the time. So, of course, young aspiring guitarists, they wanted to play a Taylor too. When I think of Taylor guitars, I think of innovations in woods, certain models, and their concept of limited one-time edition models. This can be really appealing. At least it was for me. I have their 416 baritone. It was built in 2012, and it's only one of 204 of that particular model ever built. There's an element of having something special there. I know they build other baritones in other years. They have other special releases and that, but I know that I got one of 204 ever made. There's something to that, I think. It was for me anyway. But aside from that, the sound of the guitar with the right strings on it really is amazing, the Taylors. It's an acoustic, but it can rattle the floors. When I use my baritone in many of my songs, it has such a unique sound B2B. On the innovation front, Taylor Guitars has teamed up with pro audio guru Rupert Neve to design their own pickup system. Neve in pro audio is kind of like Martin in guitars or, Mastertone in banjos. So Taylor has taken its place as one of America's biggest and most recognizable acoustic guitar manufacturers. And finally, C.F. Martin. You can't talk acoustic guitars or bluegrass, folk, or related music without including C.F. Martin. They are as prominent in flat-top guitars as Mastertone is with banjos. Christian Frederick Martin was born in 1796 and came from a legacy family of professional woodworkers in Europe. During the early century, there was a guild dispute between the cabinet makers and violin makers over who had the rights to make the then relatively new invention called the guitar. And so Martin, he emigrated to America, where he opened up a shop on the Lower West Side of New York City. One of C.F. Martin's inventions was the cross or X bracing in its guitars. The bracing made them more stable, more robust, and better able to cope with steel. It also enabled the company to create larger guitars called dreadnoughts. During the 1920s, even in spite of this, Martin did struggle as new entrants arrived on the scene. However, Martin guitars were able to maintain their own sonic space against other instruments thanks to their tight sound and focused mid-range. You can always tell a Martin, I can anyways, just even on the radio or on the internet, I can almost always tell a Martin because of that mid-rangey area. The Dreadnought flat top was designed and it was continuing its rise into the 1940s through the 60s as the folk boom spread across the world. And again, Bob Dylan and Joan Baez used Martins. On the bluegrass side, Lester Flatt, Hank Williams used their D18s. I believe that these guitars provide about the best sound any acoustic can muster. I bought my HD28 back in 2007, and it really is true what some people say, that the guitar gets better with age. If you take care of it, there's nothing like a Martin Dread. It just gets better and better as the years go by.
That was an interesting look at the world of music, right? Okay, now it's time for one of Paul's songs. Paul, over to you.
This week's featured song is called Sweet Annie. I wrote the song about being away from home and longing to be back there. And I wrote it in a semi-biographical way after reading about the James Younger Gang. The song is based around one of the Wild West's great outlaws in Frank James. And after that gang, the James Youngers, failed to rob the First National Bank in Northfield, Minnesota, Frank rushed home to be with his Annie.
Another late night and I've been on the road, and all I can think of is making it home. Been moving all day from a place far away, and I know now that you are the one. I've been in the sun and I've been in the rain, hitching a ride or riding the trains. One thing's for sure, my moving's all done, back to Sweet Annie again. My brother and I, we parted today. It's no way to live, back home I will stay. We can build our own dreams by that cabin's tall trees, and I know now that you are the one. don't want to talk or go over old ground. No more will I ride after treasures unfound. Just back to her heart and hold her near. Back to sweet Annie again. Another late night and I've been on the road. All I can think of is making it home. Been moving all day from a place far away, and I know now that you are the one. Been in the sun and been in the rain, hitching a ride or riding the train. One thing's for sure, my moving's all done. Back to sweet Annie again.
One of Bob Hackett's dreams is to own a farm. He's put a small down payment on one about an hour from Cherry Creek. It's run down, and when he's not on tour, he travels back there to do repairs and relax. He enjoys the solitude of being in the country, and even more so, owning his own piece of land. When out on tour, his girlfriend takes care of the place with her son. Ann Trace is 10 years Hackett's junior, and her son is only 8 years old. It really is a home away from home for Hackett and provides a contrast to the touring life. He also keeps a small apartment in Cherry Creek. He rents it to serve as the home base for his musical career. It's located geographically central to most of the regular venues that he regularly plays at. And it's here he keeps his musical equipment, his instruments, a small office, and a computer to keep track of his schedule. Freddie is to meet Hackett at the Cherry Creek apartment, and when he walks in, Hackett carefully steps over a jumble of audio equipment, guitars, cables, and cases, and extends his hand to greet Freddie. "Don't worry, bud, I'm reorganizing." Hackett's big hat bounces up and down in sync as he hops over these items lying on the floor. Bob Hackett's in his 40s. Music is his savior from working in the mines like his father did. His face appears wrinkled like leather. It's a face that has been built from 20 years on the road, endless nights playing to half-empty bars, and the constant stress of looking for the next gig to play. In spite of all this, Hackett loves to perform and loves everything about life on the road. His powerful baritone-styled lead vocals kept country fans coming to see him. Hackett sees himself as a modern-day Little Jimmy Dickens, the old 4'10" country singer. At 5'7", Hack's not that short, but he's not tall either. His only vices are smoking and scotch, and he consumes both liberally. He wears baggy old jeans, a t-shirt, and a cowboy hat that always seems to be just a couple of sizes too large. He speaks with a disarming softness that belies his powerful baritone vocals. The rented apartment he meets Freddie in will soon be vacant, the casualty of a man trying to keep his career alive while at the same time facing the realities of a family, a mortgage, and monthly bills.
On behalf of Paul and Ryan Tunes, thank you for listening to this week's Sound Threads.